As we continue to see the number of school shootings continue to increase across the country, numerous questions arise. Who is there to blame? How do we stop these shootings? Where are these guns coming from in the hands of these kids? What are the countries going to do about it? Let's dive into it. Welcome to K Sam Speaks podcast.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is James Duff Merritt, and I want to welcome you to the K Sam Speaks podcast. Now, this is a podcast where topics involving law enforcement are discussed while offering real and transparent answers. Now, we are not trying to change the world, but just change one heart at a time. Here's your host, K Sam.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of K Sam Speaks podcast. Today, it's a good day. It feels good outside. We about to start tapping into that fall weather, baby, and I'm so excited. About to get that fire pit going, get that little heat outside. Yeah, gumbo season. Where my Louisiana people at? We talk about gumbo season. Most people talk about some soup. Man, gumbo season is where it's at. Shout out to all my people in Louisiana holding it down. They in hurricane preparation mode right now. So prayers to them that everybody stays safe and hopefully have the time and resources to prepare for said hurricane that is on its way. But ladies and gentlemen, as I stated in the intro, school shootings happen again and again and again. And today we gonna dive into it because before it used to be the fault of the police, but now who is to blame now? Why does it keep happening? Where are these kids getting these firearms from? Who are they holding accountable? Well, I have some answers for y'all today because it has happened yet again just last week. I think actually two incidences. One was an active shooter, was a mass shooting, and one was just a single isolated student versus student where one ended up getting killed at school. But before I start, as always, I would like to bring y'all the current number of officers shot and killed in the line of duty as of the end of August. So this was August 31st where these numbers come out. And right now we are looking at approximately 256 officers that has been shot in the first 8 months of the year. 256. And the reason why I said approximately is because daily officers are getting shot. Multiple officers are getting shot daily across the country. Where's the outrage? Where's the presidential candidates? Where's the current president's administrative staff? What are we doing about these officers just senselessly getting gunned down? So 256 officers shot in the line of duty with 38 killed in gunfire. Then you also have ambush style attacks where you're looking at 64 officers has been shot or killed in ambush style attacks. So let me take a quick pause right here because these numbers, I read this every first episode of the month that I do. But back in June, these numbers became a little bit personal for me because 4 officers in these numbers were personal officers that I knew that were shot in the line of duty, and unfortunately, one was killed in the line of duty during that same incident where 4 officers got shot and 1 officer got killed in that line of duty. So it hit a little bit different because, you know, in the past, it was just reading numbers, but wasn't much personal effect to it, but it had a personal connection because I know I could also be part of this statistic at any given moment. But knowing that one of my old partners was now is part of this 38, just it is totally different. So I read these numbers to bring attention to it because you're not seeing this on CNN, Fox News, ABC, NBC, ESPN, because ESPN will talk about if somebody got shot and killed by police or whatever, but nobody's not talking about these police officers that's getting gunned down. So all I'm here is just bring education and bring some spotlight to what's actually happening in the law enforcement world, in the world where people who signing up to protect and serve losing their life. Right here down the road from me in Dallas, just 2 weeks ago, officer got pretty much executed, but they call it an ambush style attack. You're just sitting in this car And the guy walked up to him, had a little conversation, bomb, shot him. So it happens. We're gonna save all that for a whole nother episode, a whole nother conversation. But let's dive into these school shootings that we continue to see happen time and time again. I saw something online. I forgot to jot down the number of how many shootings that happened just in 2024 in schools. And don't quote me. I'll have to look this up for clarification. If I'm wrong, then I'll make sure I correct that at a later episode. But I think they was looking at like 45 was been classified as school shootings just in 2024. 45. Why are we not talking about this? Somebody said that banks are a lot safer than schools are. Why are we not protecting our kids like we're protecting this money? And that was a good point. Are schools still a safe place? Clearly, you can make an argument that it's not. I know some schools have protocol and taking steps to ensure the safety of the kids, but is it enough? Is it enough? Will it come down to a point where you got to start patting down these kids? I know some schools have metal detectors. I know schools in Texas are required by state law to have some type of armed guard on campus. But then again, we ask the question, is it enough? Some people just to the point where they rather homeschool their kids, where they know that they here with me. They in my protection. Um, but let's take a trip back down into the year 2022, if y'all will, with me, and let's go down to Uvalde, Texas, where an incident happened on Tuesday, May 24th, 2020. This incident lasted from 11:28 a.m. and came to an end at 12:50 p.m. So if y'all don't know, or if y'all not familiar with the Uvalde incident, you can go back to my podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast at, and go back and listen to my audio version of the Uvalde incident, where I broke down the whole incident, where to the number of officers responded, to the number of agencies responded, and we got deep in it. So I'm not going to do that for this one. I just want to spotlight some accountability that happened that, again, wasn't broadcasted on the news. Because why? It happened 2 years ago. Who cares about it? So Uvalde, Texas, where I think it was 21 people were shot and killed, including 19 children. So just recently, I think this happened back in June, they made an arrest on the former school district police chief of the school district, Pete Arianando, if I said that right, who was charged with 10 counts of abandoning, endangering a child. 10 counts. Well, why, you ask? Well, Chief failed to do a lot of stuff, man. Chief wasn't chiefing. Let's just say that Chief was not chiefing on that day. I honestly think Chief was scared himself. Chief didn't make. I ain't gonna say he didn't make the right decisions, because he did make the right decision, but clearly he didn't make decisions which led to not being the right decision, if that makes sense. So Chief got arrested for those 10 counts. And then he was bonded out on a $10,000 surety bond, and then nine $10,000 personal bonds. So $10,000 personal bonds, where he posted bail and was later released that day. But then they also charged somebody else, Adrian Gonzalez, who is the first officer on scene. And he was charged with 29 counts of felony, 29 felony counts of abandoning and endangering a child. Well, why was he charged? Well, Gonzalez was the first one on scene, where he was advised the general location of the shooter. He actually saw the shooter heading towards the school, but he failed to engage. And he delayed or impeded the shooter until after the gunman had entered the two classrooms and shot the children. So he has 29 counts against him, because he placed those 29 kids in imminent danger of injury or death. So here you have two people that's being accountable for this situation. So Gonzalez could have ended the situation before it even got to what ended up happening. And then fast forward down the incident, now you have the former chief who didn't do his job as the chief. And his role as the school district and incident commander during the shooting um, was he was supposed to respond the protocol that they have. But what he did was he intentionally, knowing, recklessly, with criminal negligence, placed those 10 children. I don't know which 10, but placed 10 children in imminent danger of bodily injury, death, physical impairment, and mental impairment. So he didn't do his job. Um, After he heard shots, he still failed to identify the incident as the active shooter, failed to respond to the training of how they're supposed to respond to the active shooter. But what he done instead is he stood by and called SWAT, which is the same thing as the Columbine shooting, which that kind of shaped the whole dynamics of how law enforcement go respond to active shooters. Um, and then still, after he was advised that the child and children was injured, he still directed the officers to just evacuate the wing before confronting the shooter. He failed to determine if the classrooms that the suspect was in was even locked or not. Um, so he just failed. You notice that word "failed" is being utilized a lot in this article. Just failed. He just failed. He didn't establish a command center. He didn't activate the active shooter response policy. Um, and he was there. He wasn't prepared to handle the situation. He was not prepared. More than 70 minutes passed between the time officers arrived at the school and when the gunman was finally confronted and killed. 70 minutes. But again, I don't want to dive too much into that. I just want to bring attention to that that these two officers were arrested and charged in regards to this shooting. Now, let me take it one step further. Honestly, I think more officers should have been charged. Well, why I say that? Because what they teach us is you are not to wait for a supervisor to give you the command to go and stop the threat. You had several officers that could have said, "Sorry, chief, I'm disregarding you right now, but I'm going in there and stop this threat." Would have been a hero. Um, they even had officers. Well, one officer, whose wife was a teacher, who ended up being one of the victims. She texted him or called him and said that she was shot and that the suspect was in her room. Whatever the details behind that was. Um, and officers held him back, like literally held him back from going try to save and protect not only his wife but her students. They should be charged too. So I think more charges should be filed on the abandoning and child endangerment to many officers that was there because they failed these students. They failed these students. Um, but man, let's get into the most recent active shooter out there in Winder, Georgia, where Appalachian High School, where a 14-year-old Colt Gray went into school and he killed several teachers and students. So the whole dynamic behind this, and his father was also charged um, in this case too, which was a shocker, but that goes to show you that, hey, it's time to start holding people accountable for these kids. Yes, you can hold the kids accountable, but parents, you got to parent. You have to know what your kids are doing. You have to know what your kids are involved in. You have to know what type of stuff you kids are looking up on the internet. Like kids these days have way too much freedom than what we had. Like we didn't have no cell phones at 8, 9, 10 years old. We didn't have no social media and no TikTok. I remember Facebook. Facebook used to be for college students only. And you had to have a college email address and able to create an account. You know, ain't no reason why these teenagers in school should have social media. I said it before in the episode where me personally, I think until you are at least a junior in high school, that's the appropriate time for you to have social media because now you're starting to learn some responsibility and accountability um, to start preparing you, or at least you should, to start preparing you to soar out into the adult world of things. By then you probably already driving, should be working. So now you have some responsibility. Now it's time to start teaching you and kind of giving you that leash to learn a little bit of life and learn a little bit of life lessons. But Mr. Colt Gray killed 4 people during the active shooter, where his mother actually called the school approximately 30 minutes before the police was actually notified to let them know that, hey, something is not right with my son. He sent an alarming text message um, to warn towards his mother, and his mother called the school to try to give them a heads up that something is not right with my son. Um, and they didn't release much details on that call yet of kind of what happened and why the school wasn't placed on lockdown and why proper procedures and protocols wasn't activated to prevent Colt from entering the school. Um, but what's interesting here is that Colt has been on the radar quite some time. Even before this incident, he was apparently being watched. I'm gonna say into some recent threats. So he was charged with 4 counts of murder after committing a mass shooting. He will be tried as an adult and expect to face additional charges for wounding and injuring the victims. Um, so what's what's crazy is that that so he knew, so somebody knew that he had the potential of committing this act way before this happened. Um, so back in May 2023, they questioned Colt and his dad about some online threats to commit a school shooting, which included photos of guns. And when they talked to him, he was 13 at the time, and Colt told the investigators that he would never say nothing like that, even in a joking manner. So, being that they didn't have proof or enough evidence towards these threats, the investigation was closed. So, here's where the dad got himself in trouble. After they didn't talk to him about making threats of shooting a school, the dad went and purchased his son an AR style rifle as a Christmas gift in 2023. So they talked to him in May. Hey, sir, we got concerns that your son say he was gonna do an active shooter. He was gonna do a school shooting. No, nothing to worry about. Let's go to December. Oh, I think it'd be a good idea to buy him a AR rifle as a Christmas gift. Which, what do you know? That was the same rifle used in the school shooting that he just currently done. So just months after they contacted the dad about his son being of concern, he goes and provides him a gun. So his dad now faces the 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter and 2 counts of second-degree murder and 8 counts of cruelty to children. So then they go deeper and they start searching the home. And during when they took him into custody, he straight up said, "I did it." Like, I did it. Then they found documents in his home that they believe he wrote referencing past school shootings, including the 2018 massacre at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida, which I don't remember that one. But but again, it's it's sad that we continue to deal with this issue day in and day out. And what will it take for, just say, politicians, governments, to truly protect these students to where they can feel that they are in a safe environment to learn and not to worry about being gunned down? I saw news stories where these two sisters, one sister was the classmate of Colt, who said that he was late to class. He knocked on the door. Just a natural instinct, she looked out the door to see who it was. She saw him taking the gun out of a bag. She closed the door, told the teacher what happened, and due to her quick actions, um, made him move to another class, which is where her other sister was, where that sister teacher actually was a victim. He heard some commotion outside. He stepped out in the hallway and he was shot multiple times in the chest. Students drug him into class, tried to render aid, and barricaded the room, which caused Colt to move on. Um, so these kids have to live with this for the rest of their life. You can't fault them if they never feel safe going back to school. You can't fault parents if they never want to send their kids back to a public school. Um, so what are we doing? What are we doing? Why are these kids having access to weapons of such? Any weapons? Any weapon. Why are they having access to weapons to where we could commit this? Parents, secure your weapons. You know, um, I'm not saying kids shouldn't be gifted weapons, but parents, that still fall back on y'all. Y'all are responsible for that. So anything that they do with that weapon comes back on y'all. Another story right here. We're going down to Maryland, um, where a 16-year-old shot a 15-year-old after a fight in the bathroom and fled school. This happened on the suspect's first day of school. First day of school, and he brought a gun. So don't know much about the situation of if they knew each other or what caused the fight to happen. But again, what caused him to feel that he need to bring a gun on the first day of school? On the first day of school, this was 4 days into the school year. 4 days into the school year, um, where this happened. So here's the kicker. Again, parents, accountability, it falls on y'all. So in this report, it says that the suspect is known to law enforcement and police, have previously responded to calls for service involving this suspect. They have they had more than 10 incidences since 2022 where this suspect was either a victim, witness, or a suspect by that sheriff's office. 10. So this kid is already troubled. So the last 2 years, he had 10 encounters with law enforcement, whether he was on the victim side, the witness side, or the suspect side. 10. So again, parents, why are y'all letting your kids just run wild and free like this? Out here in Dallas over the weekend, a 17-year-old, I think he was 17-year-old, but again, a teenager, shot and killed at a gas station after a fight. You can't even fight no more because now these kids are so quick to shoot that I mean, it's not really, it's not even worth it because you have to worry about getting shot. And that's road rage, you know. Um, but that's all. I just want to bring some attention and awareness to what's actually happening across the country because it's not being spotlighted in the news as it should. Because I mean, our kids are dying daily, yearly in these yet again school shootings that just continue to happen. that should not be happening anymore. And I would love to see what we gonna do about it. So, but that is all for today's episode, ladies and gentlemen. And as always, before I leave, I want to leave you with a word of encouragement. Today's word is: it's better to have one friend who's happy for you, supports your win, encourage your dreams, than a bunch of acquaintances who are lazy, self-centered, and jealous of your success. Ladies and gentlemen, thank y'all for tuning in again. Make sure you like all social media platforms, YouTube, and I just created a TikTok under K Sam Speaks, man. Make sure y'all go to TikTok, follow that, and share that. Thank y'all for tuning in. See y'all next time.